guess what? I got a fever.
You give me fever, fever in the morning, a fever all through the night.
He's closer to the Stafford tier to me. So let's talk about some of these tight ends. Like, can you tell me what the ADP is on Njoku and Ingram?
Yeah.
Or do you have tight end premium ADP? Does that even exist?
Yeah. It's the settings I have in the ADP are that the premium is between 0.5 and 1.0 for a premium.
Okay.
So Njoku is the 910.
910.
Yeah.
Wow, that's late. Okay, so he went above ADP in this, but I thought that was late.
And Ingram is the 1101.
Whoa. All right, well, I mean, I took him at 7.3 and thought that was a deal.
Who, Ingram?
Yeah, and 0.75.
Well, I mean, maybe nudge up the 11.1 a little bit because that ADP includes 0.5s in it. You know what I mean? So maybe nudge it up a little bit. But I think what you're seeing with guys like Ingram, Njoku, and Dulcich even slipping too in ADP is people saying, listen, if I'm not getting one of these, top 3 or 4, 5 guys, like I'm gonna wait,
Yeah.
So,
okay. I mean, I already had Pitts and I took Ingram to be one of my flex starters. And I like the idea of having a flex starter that can also back up tight end. But in 0.75, I think, I would rather start him than Damian Pierce. Jamison Williams is polarizing there. I guess Jordan Love is probably a better pick. I don't know. I'd rather start him than J.K. Dobbins, Dotson, TMC, Godwin, Zay Flowers, George Pickens, all the players that went after him.
Yeah. There's a few in there that I would have taken instead of Ingram. Actually, like I remember thinking like that Njoku and Ingram and Laporta and even Waller, who I like more than you. I was like, I think they're taking him a little early.
I just like them better than the players that were available, except for maybe Jameson Williams and Jordan Love. I probably should have gone Jordan Love there.
I would have gone Love. I would have maybe gone JMO. Dobbins, yes, but it's running back, and it's like we only had not only we have one Z, but like it's running back, right? So like even like if to me Dobbins might score more points in that slot in the lineup, it's a running back, so I can always wait on running back later, and Ingram has the advantage of not being a running back as far as the punishment on the body goes. Dotson, I probably would have taken. Zay Flowers, I might have taken to trade at that point because I know people love them. I like Burks and more than you do.
Gross.
Yeah, but
yeah, I really like Ingram. It's definitely a 2-year window there, maybe 3, and it's kind of all you can really ask out of a player in the 7th round the way I see it. And I like the premium. I think you'll have trade value if I need to. I think people are going to look at their tight end room when they get in season and be like, oh shit. And what I think is a lot of depth with Pitts, Ingram, Gesicki, who we've talked about ad nauseum, that we think he's going to do much better this year in that offense. Kate Otten, and then, my flyer was Brenton Strange, and I just got sniped out of Will Mallory.
Yeah, Mallory's your boy.
So Strange, by the way. I mean, didn't he go in the 2nd round?
2nd round, yeah. People forget that. Yeah. So as the draft was like unfolding, did your strategy change, or was there value that you think fell to you? Was there a surprise pick or anything like that?
Yeah, so I made that trade for Devontae, and then was like, all right, I'm going to be able to get Judy as my 2nd. But before I do that, let me go ahead and take Kenneth Walker for some shithead reason. I think I was at work. But like, I took Kenneth Walker, and then Judy didn't fall to me after the turn. So I was stuck. I didn't want to take another running back, and I did not like the receivers. All the receivers there are just stuck in that quagmire of, wide receiver 20 and later.
Yeah.
Whereas Javonte Williams has a chance to be a running back one once he's healthy.
Yeah.
And I kind of just took him for the value of what I think his value will grow.
It will, and he's already, I think, growing a bit because of he's back and practicing and he's going to play in preseason. Whereas Breece Hall, who had a cleaner knee injury, is not.
Right. Was later.
There's that brewing,
Yeah.
That
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's why I did it. I didn't love it, but then it made me sort of shy away from running back, except for the fact that, all right, well, now I have Kenneth Walker and I kind of need to get Charbonnet, So kind of jumped at him in the 8th round that I didn't love doing either.
Yeah. Well,
and I don't know that I had to get Charbonnet, but it just makes me feel better that I know I have their starter. Sort of an old school way to think about it, but
yeah.
I also think that I'll be able to start both of them sometimes.
That could be the case. Yeah, I mean, there is that line of thinking of you don't cuff your own running backs, you get other people's cuffs.
I don't like that. I mean, I understand what the thinking there, but I don't like that.
So I don't know that I'm exclusively in that camp, but I get where it's coming from, as far as limiting upside and limiting options and trades and things like that. So I could see where they're coming from, but you ended up, I think, a little more running back heavy than I expected.
You're more than I wanted to be honest. But they're good running backs, and I'm fluid. I can chuck and drive.
I loved Khalil Herbert in the 13th round.
I was about to say that. I only did that. I didn't do that because I thought I needed a running back. I did that because he was there in the 13th round.
Yeah. People are so there's backs that I have in my head together, Khalil Herbert, Rashad Penny, Brian Robinson to a certain extent, of guys who are explosive first and second down backs.
Pacheco.
Although Robinson's not very explosive, but that's the role they're gonna play.
His explosion supposedly is back to college.
Yeah,
level.
and he's also supposedly catching passes too. But as values that you can pick up in that range of 11th, 12th, 13th round, and I think Khalil Herbert in the 13th round is perfect there. Yeah.
I'm running back heavy because I felt like that's where the value was for the most part. As I was going through, and it's not that's where the value is as I'm thinking about it. It's just as the pick comes up and I'm comparing him to the players around them. Well, I just liked Herbert better. I like Javonte better. And that's why I did it. I mean, the Charbonnet pick, I actually was going to go Swift, and I got devastatingly sniped by your boy Tom. So, things happen when you get sniped as well.
Yeah. You get tilted.
Yeah, exactly. I made another trade.
Let's talk a little bit about Swift though, real quick.
Oh, okay,
I'm sorry. Sure. So because I think you are seeing a sunnier picture for him than I am. I was a Swifter. I was a unrelenting, unapologetic Swifter. He was my RB2 in Dynasty. He's going to overtake JT eventually because JT gets used too much and Swift gets used in space, and he's going to have an Eckler arc and all this shit, right? And then the more I read about why the Lions didn't like him, because he doesn't know what he's doing when he's running the ball, and then when I look at, okay, he gets traded to a team, so changes scenery, a little bit of a spike in value, but at the same time, he has the most well-rounded skill set on the team. So if anybody gets hurt, he's going to get the most touches. But if everybody's healthy, his biggest contribution is in the passing game on a team that doesn't really throw to the running backs. It just doesn't. And a team that likes Kenneth Gainwell, I I don't see the sunny picture for him that some others do. Don't get me wrong, he's still in my top 24 as far as dynasty running backs go, but I've
You ready?
Yeah,
You
go ahead,
ready
please
for the sun to rise?
Tell me the sunny picture. Yeah.
It is a thing in Eagles camp. DeAndre Swift is a thing. He is the thing.
Yeah, he's like camp. the clear running back one.
Clear running back one.
Yeah.
I mean, the reports are like he's got more burst than all of the other running backs combined. He looks great running the ball. Just got
to run to the right hole,
and
don't run out of bounds.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about what Dan Campbell thought about him, to be honest with you.
I would love to see him rejuvenated. That. I love Swift.
He is catching passes in camp that that Miles Sanders would never hope to in his entire career on his best day come close to making. This is what the beat writers are saying, right? The Negadelphian beat writers, the guys that everyone hates, really, that are worse than the fans, the Philly beat writers, right? They are just in love with him. I mean, it's here. They're going to throw passes to him this year. They don't spend that much time in camp, as much time as they have, which is like a lot, throwing to a running back if they're not going to do it during the season. It's going to be a base
teams
of their
do that
offense.
Before. Like, oh, we're going to do this, but they're just experimenting in camp, and then when the season comes, they don't wind up doing it.
They're not experimenting. They're spending a lot of time working on it. It's a thing. He is more than he's detached from the formation a lot. People think that it's going to be like Quez Watkins or Olamide Zaccheaus. I think it's going to be DeAndre Swift is going to be our third receiver.
Okay.
I'm telling you, it's a thing. Early on, it was, well, he looks so much, burstier and better than Penny without pads. Let's see what happens when the pads can't come on, and he still looks way better than Penny with the pads on. Now we're practicing against the Ravens, and we're going to get our first preseason game. I assume Penny's going to play in that. We'll see. I mean, Penny definitely needs contact to be effective. He's a power back with speed. So he's definitely never going to look as good in practice when they're not hitting full than someone like DeAndre Swift, who's made to play flag football. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, he is going to be a thing this year. Also, Gainwell has more burst from what I've heard this year.
So you were about to talk about a trade that you made.
Oh, yeah. So I traded for Amari Cooper, right? Because to me, it was late. If you can get a wide receiver 1 in the 8th round, at least for this year and next, probably, maybe next. I don't know if they'll keep him, but he's the most slept on. We'll put up wide receiver 1 numbers in all of dynasty football. So again, it was getting towards the end of a tier. I think you knew that I was trading for him or Hollywood. I gave up a couple of later startup picks. I thought it was well worth it to secure a starter. Even though I kind of slept on receiver a little bit, the trades I made helped. Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, Pittman, Keenan Allen. It's got some age to it, but it's gonna be really good this year.
What I did, because of that trade out of the 4th round, I didn't get my second receiver until the 8th round. I took Hollywood one pick after you took Amari Cooper. So I had AJ Brown and Hollywood as my receivers. When the 9th round came around, Lance was still there. And I seem to be, one of the few people still holding out optimism for Lance. And I said, you know what, 9th round rushing quarterback who could be a Konami quarterback. I looked around at the receivers that were there. I was considering Bateman and Elijah Moore. I'm very in on both of those this season. But I was like, let's take the quarterback. So I took him in the ninth round. Before I get into what I then did as far as my receiver strategy, if you will, where are you with Lance? Because I go into like the Dynasty Theory Discord, and like I'm like the only one that has any optimism for him. I go into other Dynasty spaces, and there's people who are kind of like me, like he needs to get away from Shanahan. The jury's still out. Like let's get him on the Titans or the Falcons or something and see what he can do. Where are you on him? Some people have him as like quarterback 30 something, like they're ready to bury him. In fact, I actually took him one pick after Tom took Purdy.
Yeah, I don't want any parts of him. He the problem I have with him is under normal circumstances, if a young guy came in and took his job while he was hurt, he would get traded. But it's freaking Shanahan, and he'll hold on to these guys forever. He has no reason in his mind, I guess, to trade him, and he'll just keep him around. And eventually they're going to have to make a call on his 5th-year option, and I don't think they'll pick it up, and he'll become a free agent, right? Mm-hmm. So what's this, his 3rd year? Mm-hmm. So this year and next, so you want to wait
next year? Yeah, you have to wait it out. Like,
I mean,
I can't imagine John Lynch sitting there with a quarterback like Lance, a dual threat quarterback, and not. I mean, so supposedly they couldn't get what they wanted for him this time around. I don't know, man. Like I can't imagine John Lynch allowing Shanahan to say no. Let's let him sit for another year when they might be able to at least recoup something for him.
Yeah, I mean, Purdy could get hurt again, and he could come in and take Purdy's job. I guess it could happen.
Well, a lot of people are like, well, if he can't beat out Darnold for the second quarterback, and I keep telling people, like, no. Like, Darnold is a Shanahan quarterback. That's the reason they brought in Darnold, was because he's a Shanahan quarterback. Like, Shanahan loves Darnold. Shanahan wanted Darnold. He's a joystick quarterback.
But does that mean
Trey Lance is a freelancer? Like, Shanahan doesn't want freelancers. He wants, listen, I designed the play. It's good enough. Just execute it. Like, that's what he wants. And so, like,
yeah, it is. But does that mean that Darnold is ahead of Trey Lance?
Yeah, he probably is.
Right. So, I mean, you're probably not going to see him this year.
I don't know. 9th round, I figured why not. But anyway, so
right on. I'm still trying to get starters at that point.
What I then wound up doing was, my first 2 receivers were AJ Brown and Hollywood Brown, and so, I lost out on Bateman, Elijah Moore, that sort of thing. I wound up grabbing Josh Downs and Juju as my next 2 receivers. So I loaded up my queue with like 24 receivers. And like every time it came around to me, for the most part, I looked at who else was available compared to the receivers, because at this point you're talking about like theoretically like wide receiver 4s and 5s in fantasy, right? And I was like, even though running back is a onesie position, the guys I took over receivers were like Tank Bigsby, Rashad Penny, Juwan Johnson, Jerome Ford. I didn't take another receiver. I took Downs in the 13th, right? I didn't take another receiver until the 16th with Wandale. And then the 22nd, Darius Slayton, A-Rob in the 24th. Like, and the thing is, I don't feel too bad about it, because I stuck to my strategy of take running back values late, even though it's a onesie position. People are going to be hurt. I can probably, and even if they're not hurt, I can probably trade Penny off a spike week. I can probably trade Jerome Ford to somebody when a running back gets hurt. Keontae Ingram, I took, like that might be like if James Conner gets hurt, that's a trade chip, So I kind of stuck to my strategy and didn't say like I drafted for value and not for need, and I don't want to say like I'm proud of myself because like whatever, like proud was stupid, but like, I saw a need at wide receiver, but I kept saying, no, stick to the plan. And I feel like I came away okay with it.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you set yourself up to have to make trades. So that's usually something I would do, is say, well, I'll just take the assets and I'll work it out later. I can shuck and jive my way through it. But I'm surprised because you kind of gave yourself more work for later.
Yeah, which is not really my thing, but
yeah,
I'm trying to, embrace it.
I like it because,
but I also like the people in this league, and I know all of them for the most part. Some of them I know less than others, but like, it's not like there are leagues where like this is a league where like I know a lot of people. Then like maybe one ring out, there's a league that I'm like loosely affiliated with people, and then you get out to like the other circles and it's like randos. I cut out like the randos leagues, and I'm trying to get a lot of those leagues into that inner circle of like people I know and trust and like, and I'm getting there. Sorry.
Right on. Yeah, that's what I like about your strategy is that once you get in season and you are in a position to trade one of these running backs or two of these running backs, you can trade them for players that are playing well. You're not guessing in the offseason of, you'll be able to see and evaluate in season who you want to go after. It may make the price go up on that player a little bit, but there's more certainty.
Right. Like, so for example, Zach Pulowski going for 2. He went real heavy receiver, right? He took Eckler in the 4th and then Kendre Miller in the 11th. And now he's like been pounding, some running back a little bit, right? But, if his Eckler gets hurt, like he does have Spiller as a cuff, but like Spiller hasn't been doing well. Like, Deneric Prince, Keaton Mitchell, Kyron Williams, like those are the guys he's pounding late. If Eckler gets hurt, I can give him Penny,
right.
Something like, and get a receiver, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. Well, is there any pick that you made that you like regret the most? Actually, let's be positive first. What's the pick that like you like the most? Like whether it was value or you were waiting for a guy to get to you there and it happened or filled a need, or was there a pick that like you really...
We do our best playing publicly. We don't do our best playing privately, which is backwards from a lot of musicians. There aren't very many bands, certainly, that play rock and roll where improvisation is a large part of what they do. What you have now, masquerading as rock and roll, is in reality safe, popular music. That's largely the work of producers and less the work of musicians. The music business is basically economics. It's basically the thing of when you make a record, you want players that don't make mistakes. You don't necessarily want players that take chances. You want players that don't make mistakes. So because economically that means less time in the studio. You get what you want on the record, and it's safe and it's perfect. And that's kind of been the thrust of music production and popular music, which has sort of co-opted rock and roll. Our audience, I think, illustrates that there's a lot of people who really want a musical experience rather than to be performed at.